Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with another a recent film review. And this one's actually going to be of a remake. This is a remake that's been in the talks for up to a decade before it came out. When it was actually announced, when it was actually being made, hated the idea of it. Absolutely hated the idea of it. Didn't even care to watch the trailer. I was like, fuck this, I'm out, because I'm a huge fan of the original. But then it came out and it was getting polarized reviews, but the good reviews were great. It was getting a lot of praise. And the more I saw of it, the more I heard about it, the more intrigued I got. And that is 2018's Suspiria. Of course, I am a huge fan of Dario Argento's original 1977 Suspiria. In fact, that's one of my favorite covers of all time. One of my favorite Italian films. Probably my favorite Argento film. Not quite sure on that. I've always loved Suspiria. In fact, this is when I had it on DVD. It was one of the first horror films I bought when I really started collecting. So you can imagine I wasn't too keen on a remake being done, especially seeing how most remakes are. But the more I heard about it, I thought it was gonna be like a Blumhouse movie, like a Blumhouse type remake. But then it came out, people were saying like they were criticizing it for being pretentious, or they were praising it for being pretentious but in a good way. Praised it for all these different things, saying how different it was to this one. Now, this review, I'm not going to be comparing the two. I don't want to do that. I will be doing I'll try to do a slash grab episode, formerly known as Reslashed. I changed it to slash grab. See how that works. So I'm gonna try not to compare it to this, but so finally I went from saying fuck that to, well, maybe I'll check it out, to really seeking it out and being genuinely intrigued, to finally picking it up yesterday and checking it out today. And I have to say, I don't care if this is blasphemous or it gets me kicked out of the horror community forever, but I was quite impressed by this movie. I actually really liked it. I mean, yeah, it is very different from this. Very different. The thing about remakes is people will hate them because they're Xeroxes of the original, or they're so different. It's literally like they just took the name to sell tickets and make money off the name itself. Here, though, they did what I think all remakes should do. Must they do remakes? Evil Dead did it. Dawn of the Dead did it. Hills Have Eyes pretty much Xeroxed the original, but it made it better. The whole third act is original, but it takes the core of the story, the absolute most basic basis idea of the story of the original, and it does its own thing. I mean, the only thing I will say that is comparative about the two is, okay, the original, while this one is very a minimal on story and mostly a visual experience, this one, although visual itself, is more so story, very story driven. There's a lot going on. While the visual in this is very vibrant, exaggerated, surreal, colors and set designs. This one is very bleak, somber. The director, um, I want to pronounce his name right. Where the hell is this director's name? Do it this way. Luca. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it from memory. Luca Guadagnino. Probably pronounced that wrong. I apologize if I did. He called it winterish with no primary colors. It's very gray, bleak. While Goblin's soundtrack is very eccentric, bombastic, maybe even distracting. This one by Tom York can be very somber, very simplistic, almost Carpenter-esque or ominous, but also has actual songs in it, which can work, not for all of them, especially the last one, but it's still basically the same story. You have lost my train of thought. You have an American Girl, and this one played by a Dakota Johnson. Yes, from 50 Shades of Grey, aka If I Was Poor, This Would Be Assault, aka 50 Shades of Shallow Women fame. And she does a great job in this. Dakota Johnson is, I would say she's great in this, which shows she is a good actress. It's just her material. So 50 Shades of Grey sucks. I think most people knew that. She goes to Berlin at this really prestigious dance academy run by witches. That's the extent of the story in this one. This one, there's a lot more going on. You also have one of my favorite actresses, Tilda Swinton, who, I mean, she played Gabriel the Angel in Constantine. She was in Doctor Strange. She's been in a lot of stuff. You would know her if you've seen her. Actually, I don't know how well you can see her. That's her. And yeah, Chloe Grace Moretz is there, and her name's on the cover. She's really just in the beginning and like the end. Mia Goth. Tilda Swinton, yeah, she's one of my favorite actresses. She plays 3 roles in this. She plays Madame Blanc, who's like the head dancing instructor. She plays Madame Marcos, who's the leader of the coven. And she plays a male psychiatrist, an elderly male, which the old man latex makeup is superb on her. Looks excellent. They even give her a penis for her naked scene. Very nice. But yeah, this movie is 2.5 hours. But it's a very it's a good pace. It's a slow burn, but it's a good pace. It's very methodical, like The Shining or The Witch or The Lighthouse. It takes its time. It never drags. I didn't feel like this movie dragged. It's always building to something. And it's broken up into acts, kind of like a Tarantino film. There's 6 acts, 5 acts in the epilogue. And there's several themes. Like, there's themes of motherhood, of course, you know, with the big witch being a mother Suspiriorum. That's what the witch is. That they're trying to bring forth the Coven of Witches vote for who's going to lead the coven to bring forth a, a Mother Superiorum. To my understanding, I mean, this is a lot deeper than the original. It actually took me 2 sittings to watch this because I watched like an hour and a half of it. Then I cooked dinner and watched something else. Watch TV time with my girlfriend. Then I went back to it. Kind of fucked myself up, but it follows some of the same beats. I mean, like we do get a very visceral, jolting death, like the girl in the beginning of the last one who's being chased. She sees the eyes and she's pulled outside, stabbed and hanged. That was disturbing for that movie, but where that was bloody and visceral, this one, I really like the idea of it. Also, with this, you might get 1 or 2 quick scenes of dancing. This movie is all dancing. And not only that, the dancing is how they do their spells, how they do their ceremonies and their rituals. They utilize what they're doing. Where the original, where it was just a cool, interesting place to set a movie, here they actually do something with it, and I applaud it for that, and it worked. Because when they want Dakota Johnson to show what she can do for their big piece, their big dance piece, Tilda Swinton touches her hands and feet. We see like a little glow. And the girl that tried to get away, well, Chloe Grace Moretz is the one that wanted to get away. Then she disappears. Then this other girl, Olga, she calls them out in front of everyone, like, you're witches and everything. So then she leaves. But when Dakota Johnson, who does play Susie Bannion, same name as the original, when she does her very primal, twisty, almost sexual kind of dance, her body movements affect Olga's. It's like when she does her twists, her body twists, like her, but in a violent way. It's not really bloody, but it's very grotesque. Like there's a part like where her jaw, and she's in a room full of mirrors, so we see multiple angles. I mean, like, we see her shirt lifted up with like her ribs protruding, her jaw's all dislocated, her arms all wrapped around. We hear the bones crunching. It very grotesque. Also across, because it takes place in 1977, which is when the original came out. Across the street from the school is the Berlin Wall. So there's also themes, there's some political themes, which people, that was one of the big criticisms, was why set it in the 70s, why have the Berlin Wall, the sort of political survivor guilt, because the male psychiatrist that Tilda Swinton plays, which she was cast as an alias. She was cast as Lutz Ebersdorf. Lutz Ebersdorf was who she was credited as for Dr. Joseph Klemperer. His wife tried to flee to the south from the Nazis, and she was caught, and for 35 years he never knew what happened to her. So he's been living with this guilt, and the Berlin Wall is kind of a constant reminder. And also, because of the vote between Blanc and Marcos amongst the Coven, there's sort of this quest for power of like overthrowing And like Blanc, I think, resents Marcos, and like the original, we don't see Marcos till the very end. But Marcos is, she's like the false leader. I kind of had a hard time understanding the ending because this one's more straightforward. This one's a lot deeper, and where I had a couple hours in between both sittings, I could have done some reading before I did this, but um, yeah. Basically, it's corrupt within the coven, and from there, she, uh, Susie, Dakota Johnson, Susie befriends a girl named Sarah. They kind of start looking into the disappearance of Chloe Grace Moretz and some other stuff. We do get some very emotional scenes. Um, like, we don't really get the scene with the dog from the original, but Dr. Klemperer at one point sees his wife, who is played by Jessica Harper, Susie Bannion from this film. And she talks about how she fled, she went to a camp, but she got away, or liberated, started a new life, they start walking together, and then she just vanishes. And then these screaming witches just come out and attack him and bring him to the ritual. The choreography is splendid in this. I really like the idea of not necessarily doing like ballet, but it's very like it's very primal. Like there's a lot of like, I don't even know what the hell you would call it. It's spastic, but it's very fluid. Primal and tribal is the only thing that comes to mind. There is like a sexual tone to it. Even Susie at one point, when talking to a Madame Blanc, who she asked like, what did it feel like when she was dancing, while Olga was being pretty much destroyed. She says, it's what I imagine it's like to fuck. And then she says, to fuck him in. She says, I was thinking an animal. So there's like this sexual tone to it, but very well choreographed. And the disturbing scenes are very few and far between, but they do pay off. I mean, when they finally get to the big performance, we see this hidden room. I'm actually going to say spoilers because this is a fairly new movie. I mean, 2018. I will say this is not a movie for everybody, but neither's this. I mean, they're very, very, very different. This in no way feels like a ripoff or a disrespectful cash-in or anything of this. I will say this is a very well-made film. I can see why people would call it pretentious. I can see why some people would think it's overly long or boring, or the political stuff is unnecessary. But if you like the slow burn, very methodical building towards something with disturbing scenes throughout, with a good payoff at the end, Shining, The Witch, etc., and you're not totally turned off from remakes at this point, give this a try. I do recommend it even as a film by itself. Even for the performances alone. I mean, this movie, sort of like Twilight. I mean, I shit on Robert Pattinson quite a bit. I saw The Lighthouse. The guy can act. Twilight just sucks. Dakota Johnson. She does a great job in this. I can't go too much into how good she is without spoiling it. So I'm going to say spoilers, but yeah, 50 Shades sucks. She's great in this. Tilda Swinton as 3 different characters. 2 of them she's unrecognizable. Great choreography. Really nice, somber, creepy, ominous score. Wonderful cinematography. Very bleak color palette. But very, very well made. And I would put this up there with, I mean, Evil Dead is still my favorite remake, but I would put it up there with Dawn of the Dead and Hills Have Eyes for, like, best remakes. As far as the era of remakes, 2003 to present, obviously it's not as good as The Fly or The Thing, especially The Thing. When I say remakes, I'm talking about 2003, Platinum Dunes, Chainsaw Massacre to present. I was really impressed. Don't be turned off by the 2.5 hours or the fact it's a remake of this. Just go into it completely virgin and open, and I think you'll be impressed. I was, but yeah, Suspiria. It's all building towards the ritual at the end that they've all been waiting for. And I like the original where Madame Marcos is a silhouette behind like a curtain. Here we see her, and the director Luca, I'm just going to call him Luca. I guess he looked at a lot of like real pictures of like older deformed people and crime scenes to get the wounds right, but also the grotesqueness right. Like Madame Marcos is like this obese, almost elephantitis looking elephant man woman with who's naked, but she's got these black glasses. She has like a baby's arm coming out of her arm, all lumpy and very grotesque looking. And so, Dakota Johnson gets to the ceremony, and you get the really spastic, tribal kind of dancing. Madame Blanc tries to intervene. Marcos does this thing. It like almost completely severs her head. And that's when Susie Bannion reveals herself to be Mother Superiorum herself. Which is a hell of a twist. The opposite ending of this. It didn't bother me. It going that route, it didn't bother me at all. It actually made for a great climax. I mean, 2.5 hours been building and building and building very methodically. So we're in like this witchy dungeon looking room, and she reveals herself to be Suspiriorum, and she like, I think she bites Madame Marco's tongue out, and she just starts bleeding. She summons death, which is like, take the Bagul from Sinister, which I hate, but make him like tall and slender with longer hair, almost more feminine looking, long fingers, and just kind of like she summons death to walk up to every person that voted for Marcos, and it like goes up to the side of their head, and their fucking head explodes. So you just have this whole everyone else is just dancing. You have the Sarah girl, Chloe Grace Moretz, and this other girl who were the ones used in the ritual. They're disemboweled. We see their intestines pulled out. Looks great. I'll even say the CGI was impressive. CGI blood spraying out looked really impressive. Normally, I fucking hate CGI. They did have practical blood spraying. They used it to enhance it, which I think is okay. And then Dakota Johnson, Susie does this thing where she's like going like this, and she's supposed to like open her chest up. Supposed to like open a wound, and like blood's supposed to be spraying out while she sort of has this look of ecstasy on her face. And I guess the director looked at like crime scene photos to get the look of the viscera correct. But I watched the behind the scenes, and the prosthetic mold they had for that looks very much like a vulva. So I'm thinking that's like a sign of rebirth. That's what I'm taking away from it, because it's very vague on how much of this she knew about Suspiriorum. There was a flashback to being homeschooled with her siblings, learning about maps, and she keeps going to Berlin. And she talked about how she kept hitchhiking in New York to see their act. So I don't know if the breadcrumbs were planted to that point, or if she knew all along. Doesn't really say. But I mean, it's a bloody, it's kind of in slow-mo. It feels calm, even though there's all this chaos going on. This is one of those times where there is a real song. It's a very calming song, but there's like lyrics and stuff. I would have preferred a score instead of a song. But it all looks great. You have everyone else dancing normally while just heads are fucking exploding. Plus, I love the look of like the dungeony kind of room. But then she goes up to the sacrifice girls and she acts like a mother. She's a mother now, Mother Suspiriorum. And, you know, they ask for death and she gives them peaceful death. The male psychiatrist Tilda Swinton plays was taken as like a prisoner. I guess he was going to be sacrificed. After all this shit, you would think, like, if Argento did this, in the midst of all that chaos, you would just start seeing the credits roll. Italian films always end abruptly. As soon as the story's done, credits. Almost half hour in, I gotta wrap this up. But then, she is full Mother Suspiriorum when she goes to see the doctor as he's being cared for. And Dakota Johnson, she's playing another character. You can tell she's reborn. She's a different person now. Tells him the truth about his wife. And it's very emotional, very well done. Tilda Swinton can act through all that makeup because she's playing an old man. I mean, very much like Karloff and like Bride of Frankenstein. No words, just very visual. The perfect amount of like visual, physical acting with emotion. Uninterrupted monologue by Dakota Johnson. And then the Dance Academy starts back up with everyone seemingly having no memory. I'm pretty sure. And then it ends at this place where there's like a heart. It's like a place where psychiatrist and his wife, when they were young, they carved their initials in a heart. So a motherhood is another theme explored, because hints of I keep wanting to say Fanning, Johnson's mother dying when she was young, the mentor-protege relationship with her and Blanc, and then her as she's a witch, but she acts a bit like a loving mother to the girls used for the ritual and the doctor. But I would say I'm impressed with this film. It took the very core of what it needed from this movie, and it focused more on the story. It did the total opposite visually and sonically, and it's very well made. Half hour, and I can't wrap it up as well as I think I would, but I was very impressed. I see why some people wouldn't like it. I know some people are purists, horror purists, and they don't want to let go of this. You don't have to. They're so different, you can enjoy both. I do. I would say this is a better made film, but this might be a better horror film. I don't know yet. This is one of those movies that takes a couple watches. I can already tell. But upon first watch, I would say I'm impressed. As a remake and as a film itself, I was impressed. But yeah, I gotta stop this before it quits out on me. But remake is Suspiria. I was impressed. I enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.